Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Diary of a Middle-Aged Gamer. I hope you enjoy listening to some of the most memorable, sometimes calamitous adventures I've had with video games over the past 25 years, as well as discuss the evolution of the gaming industry. I'll be talking to some special guests about their own gaming experiences. We'll have some laughs, learn a few things, and reminisce about many iconic games. Here's a funny excerpt about my character Zolthar from EverQuest. Enjoy. The Legend of Zolthar, barbarian, shaman, and questionable decision maker. A long time ago, in a land far, far away, Zolthar, the barbarian shaman, was born. Or rather, he materialized out of thin air at the ripe old age of 35 in the frosty embrace of Everfrost peaks. Towering like a mountain with legs, he was less wise shaman and more gym rat with spells. The gods, in their infinite wisdom or mischief, bestowed him with a rare gift, the ability to enhance his own attributes. Now, any sensible shaman would invest in wisdom to amplify their mystical arcane powers, but not Zolthar, oh no. He looked those gods square in the eyes and said, "Wisdom is overrated, let's go with strength." And thus began his journey as a magical meathead, lugging around mountains of useless loot because, hey, who needs strategy when you can deadlift a dragon? But unknown to Zolthar, his questionable decisions were entirely his fault. Somewhere in the mystical realm of Florida, an omnipotent entity named Carrie Randkin was pulling the strings. This entity, a 12-year-old with a penchant for cheese puffs and questionable gaming strategies, guided Zolthar's every move with the finesse of a cat chasing a laser pointer. Yet, despite Carrie's leadership, or lack thereof, Zolthar didn't just survive, he thrived. Over time, Carrie and Zolthar formed an unbreakable bond, built on shared victories, epic loot, and an impressive collection of death logs. Together, they joined the Nerathian Renegade Alliance, a guild of mighty warriors whose acronym often got them mistaken for the National Rifle Association. Under the guild's wing, Zolthar grew stronger and slightly less foolish. He embarked on perilous raids, conquered terrifying foes, and even learned the sacred art of not stepping in obvious traps. By the end of his 56-day-long existence, a record-breaking lifespan in the barbarian shaman years, Zolthar had become a legend. Or did he? Some say Zolthar still roams the original lands of Norath, chasing mythical loot and the occasional chicken. Regardless, Zolthar's story lives on, a testament to the power of persistence, the folly of misplaced priorities, and the eternal bond between a barbarian and his 12-year-old puppet master. This evening, on the very first episode of this podcast, we'll be discussing, first of all, what it was like to game in the 90s on a computer. And we'll be talking about two of my personal favorite games from the late 90s, EverQuest and Lands of Lore, Guardians of Destiny. I hope you enjoy it, and let me know what you think. With me is Derik and Dylan Bell. They are twins, and I've known them for a very long time. How are you guys doing?
Good. Doing good. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I've known these guys since I saw a picture of them in their mother's womb. They're a few years younger than me. Yeah, that's right. I remember your mom, Debbie, showing me a picture. But I think my very first game interactions with them are probably what we're going to be talking about today, which is actually my more anticipated episode for me, which is going to be EverQuest, one of the original MMORPGs for PCs. There were a few before it, but in my opinion, this one is going to be more advanced than the other ones. It's the first MMORPG to use 3D spatial engine as well. And then we'll talk about another game that came out actually a little bit before EverQuest, and this was a single player game. And I'm going to see if you guys can recognize the sounds of this game before I reveal. I know, Dylan, you probably know what I'm talking about, but I want to see if Derik has any idea from hearing an intro to a game. So we'll see what happens. Here we go.
We got scared when we were younger. Really? Certain things in this game, and Carrie would play it for us. Yes.
Probably just to terrify you guys more.
Yes.
Because I was pretty sadistic back then.
Yeah, man.
Okay, are you going to reveal it to me then, Dylan? Or are you just going to keep talking?
It was a primal or something like that. I forget what it was, the entire name of the game was. But it was you could shapeshift into different animals.
That's right.
And you could like it was single player. So the thing is, like Derek and I, we were we're twins, so we had to play every game we played had to be a co-op game, and there was no way we could actually play this game by ourselves because we would kill each other trying to get into the game. So we would walk over to Carrie's place and watch him play this game, and it was too elevated for us because we were too young.
Was there something to do
so-
with a claw?
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Yes. The claw.
I remember a claw.
Yes.
It's funny you remember that. That's what I remember the most. Is it was weird little graphic for Monster Vault, but the game is called Lands of Lore, Guardians of Destiny, which is the sequel. I didn't play the first one, but this one came out, and I think actually your brother Spencer got it, or he told me to buy it, or something like that. And I think this is the very first game that I can remember playing on the PC, apart from like Doom and some like Windows 7 games that were out in game. They're more like a little cinematic. But there was no walkthrough online. Obviously, internet existed, but you couldn't go online and figure out how to do something. And it's a game that's kind of fantasy-based, single player, and you go around solving these puzzles. It was a puzzle-based game. And you would have some fighting and that kind of thing, but mostly you went around solving puzzles as a human, and then you could transform into a beast or this little lizard guy to solve different puzzles, depending on if you needed to like,
that's right.
attack things or
Okay.
squeeze under a tunnel as a lizard or talk to people as a human. This is what the game was. And it was just a good game. I wanted to touch about this game, though, because I remember I got stuck on this part of the game. It was like halfway through, and you're in this graveyard. You're having to like kill some zombies or whatever. But there was a point where there was a locked catacomb door. I was probably like 8 years old when I was playing this. I was 8 because I was born in 85. This was 97. So, right? Is my math terrible? 12.
You were 12.
12 years old. All right.
We were 8
You were
or
eight.
6. Yeah.
All right. So there's this locked door, and there was this like very obvious barrel that you had to knock over because the guy would make this sound like, oh, meaning it was an interactive object, Clicked on it, wouldn't do anything, but I knew it had to do something with this door. Nothing happened for like an hour. I messed around with this stupid game. And I looked at the manual, which had like nothing in it at the time. And it said on the back, there's a hotline you can call to like have you solve puzzles. I remember calling. I was so desperate to figure out this stupid puzzle. Use my landline, parents' phone. Call this number, and it says, before you begin, we charge $1 a minute. So listen to this. Something ridiculously priced. I didn't ask my parents. I hit yes. And I had to navigate. Took the longest because I remember like all this money's just getting drained from my parents, and I was like, hitting all these buttons on the phone to get to the right menu, to get to like chapter 7, section 3 of this game to figure out exactly where she needed to talk. It was like it was like an audio recording. And finally, she says you have to push this barrel over to get the roll. And I was like, I know that it's not working, and you have to press on the barrel a very specific part of the barrel for it to knock over. That's all it was. Got it figured out. I beat the game, but then like a month later, my mom got a bill for her phone line, and it was like an extra $60 for this little walkthrough I paid for, which I already knew how to do anyways. And she was like, "What is this, Carrie?" I was like, "Oh, well, to somehow talk my way into that one there." The walkthrough cost more than the game itself, like double.
For one location in the game.
And I'll never forget that. It's pretty fun.
When you're that dedicated, though,
Yeah.
and you need to complete the game from point A to point B, is the $60 worth it?
Probably not.
I mean,
It's
when you're
okay.
a kid, it is for you versus your parents, right?
But Lands of Lore was one of the first magical PC games for me. And I played others before that, with your Dooms and that kind of thing. But this was the first one I can remember that brought magic to me as a kid, even though 2 years before that, Command and Conquer came out. And that one was really probably the first one. I was like, oh my God. But for some reason, my brain thinks that Lands of Lore came out before that. It's not true. I'm talking about this one first because that's just how I remember it as a kid. But they also made Lands of Lore, Guardians of Destiny, Westwood Studios, who made Command and Conquer, which was one of the most successful franchises in like RTS history. Westwood came out back in 92. Excuse me. They started in 1985 and they were bought out in 1992 by Version Games. But Westwood was started by two guys essentially that had no programming experience. They were just buddies and they started in their garage and started learning programming skills. And they made some games and they were bought out because they were so successful. So just two guys started this company. And now they were bought out twice. First by Virgin, and then Virgin was bought out by EA. So they were very successful. But Command and Conquer was another one that was really amazing game, and we'll talk about that one in a different episode of this podcast. Yeah, so Lands of Lore is kind of the encore to the other game I want to talk about, EverQuest. But just to kind of wrap up Lands of Lore, yeah, it was an amazing game. Anyone out there want to play a good, really old, if you can find it online, play Lands of Lore, Guardians of Destiny, you won't regret it. Going on from there, EverQuest came out in 1999. And that was a game that was supposed to be not a big success. It had very low expectations at the time. Sony was the main corporate umbrella under EverQuest, and the development team, they were known as NeverQuest because they thought they would never be successful. So they were kind of like laughed out of the building a lot of times. And ironically, they were probably the most successful development team of their time for Sony for any kind of game, which is, I think it's hilarious. So it went from being EverQuest to EverCrack because it was so addicting.
Yeah. I remember the articles that were coming out saying that EverQuest was more as addictive as heroin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely insane. Obviously now we know that's not true, but it was interesting to see the public face meet this and then say, you know what, this is actually, we don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, the amount of hours that people are investing in this.
And that definitely scared parents when those articles were coming out
Yeah.
in the media. All of our parents were like, hey, should we be allowing our kids to play this many hours of the video game? And it definitely scared our parents. I remember that, especially our father.
Yeah, and like one of the very first articles that came out about video game addiction had to do with EverQuest because it was probably the biggest success of its time. Then it was like Game of the Year for 5 years in a row for best MMO. Like it went on forever. It felt like for me. And it was so successful that they partnered with Pizza Hut at the time in 2003.
Wow.
And they added a command in the console for the game. So you had to minimize your window to order pizza from them directly.
I don't remember.
We were too young to order pizza. So
Well, I mean, that must have been after the two expansions, Shadows of Luclin and
was the other.
well, we were still too young. We were 13.
Many
12,
expansions, but
Yeah, with one after 2 years of it being out, one every year, right?
I don't remember. I have that in here somewhere in my notes, but there were dozens of expansions, just like Command and Conquer. They just kept it going and going because it was a money-making franchise. So that was interesting. I didn't know about the Pizza Hut expansion. I didn't ever use it, but it was there. So if you were that hardcore of a gamer, you could order pizza directly from EverQuest, like in a chat.
Well, you need
Pizza. Yeah, it's very healthy. That and Mountain Dew, Red Alert, whatever. So yeah, EverQuest is an amazing game, and I will bring your brother on, hopefully at some point, Spencer, because he's the one that introduced me to EverQuest as well, probably along with Lands of Lore. That's their older brother, Derik and Dylan Bell. And
I have another story about him.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
You know this?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up.
Okay, we'll bring it up later then. I still hold that one close.
We're definitely gonna talk about it. I know exactly what you're talking about. But I remember going to, which is now bankrupt, Circuit City at the time, to go buy EverQuest because Spencer was like, "Oh, there's this game that came out for PC. You're gonna love it, Carrie." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." But I went there with my parents. We bought it, and then Spencer did not tell me at the time that he had to pay monthly for it. So I remember like creating an account and all this stuff. And my parents were watching TV in the same room as I was in the living room. I was on my computer with Spencer. He's walking me through the installation process. And then it's like, all right, you have to sign up for the monthly subscription. And it was $30 a month when it started. I was like, oh my God. So I awkwardly, Spencer was sitting next to me. And my parents are like 10 feet away behind me, watching probably 911 or something. And I was like, Mom and Dad, I have to add a credit card to this game to pay for it every month. Spencer's sitting like, oh, like punched over, come on. Like, I was like trying to hide. And then they're like, what? Finally they just crumbled and they allowed it. And I remember playing, this was probably like 6 p.m. And I started a character as a shaman, a barbarian shaman named Zoltar. Yeah. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I didn't know it was like a casting class, meaning it's like a spell casting class that needed a lot of mana to cast spells. I thought because it was a strong barbarian dude, I put all the attribute points in strength instead of into wisdom to cast spells. So I created this really jacked but dumb barbarian shaman that I had no mana. It's like, what's wrong with my character?
Didn't know how to do your character build.
But I could carry a lot of equipment. It's the only good thing. I could carry a lot of crap with me I didn't need it. But I remember playing all night, super addicted immediately. And once again, at the time, there's really no walkthrough games back in the 90s. So going online, you could maybe find a sliver of information of how to do stuff or how to quest, that type of thing. And I remember like playing all night until my parents told me to get off, you know. And it came with a box back then, of course, that had cool cloth map, like a pirate's map. And I remember sitting on the couch next to the computer. I didn't go in my bedroom all night. I slept on the couch next to the computer. I was so addicted already. Looking under a sheet at this cloth map with a flashlight, looking at how to navigate from the initial starting realm. It's called Everfrost Peaks. Trying to get to like the first green area of grasslands. I remember just sitting there for hours. I was like, all right, I have to cross this mountain ridge on this map and get to the next point and all this nonsense. The map was terrible. It didn't made no sense at all.
So was it was Norath, right?
Yeah, that's the name of the realm, Norath.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was made up of hundreds of zones. I forgot how many. It might have been around 500.
500 realms.
Yes. Yeah. 500 zones. Yeah.
Zones.
And I couldn't figure out how to get out of the first zone for about like a day and a half. I just had no idea what I was doing because I was like, 12 and I'm so amped up on dopamine for playing this game. I was so excited about it and I just ran around aimlessly. But it was a good time. Finally broke through the first zone, just played forever. Felt like my parents hated they hated this game. And I remember you guys were watching quite a bit.
So
Yeah.
So you all know like what Dylan and I used to do at this point in time in our lives. Video games were not looked upon very lightly in our family. So we tried to play video games, but like many of you listeners, I'm sure, it didn't go over very well with the family. So we would sneak over to the Rankins' house, and you can just picture this kind of scene. It was two twin boys pushing stools up to either side of Carrie while he played his EverQuest games, and we just watched. that was our experience, though. It was so much fun.
No, it was. It was basically we had no recourse otherwise.
Yeah.
We couldn't play it ourselves. We didn't have a good PC. We didn't have a the console or like it's not a console game, so it's a PC game. We didn't know what was going on. We were too young. Our older brother played the game, so of course we wanted to play the game to be just like our older brother. Carrie was next door, one of our best friends. He allowed us to come over and watch the game with him.
You may watch. You could sit.
You may watch and sit. And like at that time, like you imagine the entertainment like differential between now and then. This was such a jump up from what we're used to.
Oh, we
Yeah.
vicariously lived through him, and like we saw the excitement, didn't have to worry about our character.
Oh yeah,
in danger. Right?
I mean, we don't need to go into the game characteristics or what would happen if he failed in some mission or something like that. But it was stressful.
I imagine for you guys, it was almost like watching interactive TV, but based on something more interesting than what was on cable at the time.
Yeah, you think of Twitch.
Yeah.
How successful the whole platform of Twitch is, just watching other people perform at something. But this is in person, and we know the person playing the game. It was much more personal.
It's kind of the original form of Twitch.
Well, the original and much more personal because you know the person
Yeah.
right next.
That's a good.
Yeah.
It's a good analogy.
So this went on for probably what, 6 months? Would you say a year? I don't remember.
Way longer than that.
It went on a very long time. When we couldn't play ourselves, I mean, eventually we did, which we'll get into later. But before that, it was watching Carrie play.
Yeah, it was a solid
Maybe
years,
maybe a year or two. Yeah.
2 years.
Actually, sorry, I think I should kind of back up and clarify. So you guys were my neighbors, obviously. I don't think I ever mentioned that, or do you guys mention that?
No.
Okay.
No, we did not.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Probably you're probably like, guys, these guys walks or what? They're sort of neighbors across the yard.
Yeah, crust.
Didn't even cross the street. So they would just walk over to my house and yeah. So let's just clarify that.
We went back creepy. No, look, no, it was not a creepy situation. It was he was like Carrie, our host here, was like 13 years old or 14, and we were 10, 8 or 9 or something like that. And video games were originally like they were popping up like when like flies at this point. So this was the best game of the time, and you needed a system to be able to run it. And Carrie was lucky enough to have the system to be able to run this game.
Yeah.
And so we walked over there to watch him play it. It was very fun. And, it's not just like, we played with him sometimes because we were able to play several characters on his account because he let us do that. And like, we had no way to do that otherwise, but it was just fun to watch because it was so new. It's so different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very revolutionary for its time. And there was really no other game like it. Like I said, this was the first game created with a 3D spatial engine. So
Yeah.
everything before it was usually top-down view, and it looked two-dimensional because that was the technology of its time. But this was the big leap forward, in my opinion. So this was the best out of the big 3 MMORPGs. And yeah, it got so addictive for people that it was actually banned in a couple places in the world because people said it was too addictive, essentially, and it was an attack of the democratic state. So there was a lot of controversy around this game, along with Counter-Strike, the original Counter-Strike. There was a lot of controversy with new upcoming games that really didn't exist at the time. So an interesting time for the gaming industry, and they were making leaps and bounds through politics and all this crazy red tape and everything. But so with EverQuest, yeah, I remember playing this shaman Zolthar, and I think I got pretty late in the game, and then you guys finally were able to start playing with your characters. And by then, unfortunately, I couldn't really play with you guys because I was like level 55 and you guys were just starting, and there wasn't a power leveling system, which if you guys don't know what that means, it's when a person that you know online can help you level very quickly through some means, whether it's farming and helping them kill creatures or whatever. It didn't really exist for EverQuest at the time. So I'll see you guys in the game, but it's more of like, hi, I can help you get through this series.
But there wasn't like a farming or like a power leveling feature of the game, but there definitely was the moments where we would struggle with something, and we just had you one message away, and all of a sudden you popped in real quick with your shaman and helped destroy that last thing we couldn't get past, or we died.
Yeah,
and we lost. In if for the listeners, in EverQuest, one of the main topics that I really enjoyed about the game is the fact that when your character perished in the video game, the body just dropped where it was, and you'd spawn back at your home location or wherever you assigned it, basically naked, and you had the potential to lose all your gear. And so it became a tradecraft within the game to s- pay people of higher level to walk you through a very dangerous zone so you could retrieve your body and get all your gear. Because at this time you were spending a lot of time, a lot of money, quite literally, investing in the game and trying to acquire the best gear, and then you have the potential to lose it all. And that made everything that you did, every movement, every decision you made, much more thought out. There wasn't the normal grind. It was, can I get into this higher level zone? Can I do all this? We'll back up, I'm sure, and talk more about what the premise of the game is, but that was one of the most important parts about this game for me, and I feel like it was such a good part of it.
Yeah, it was a very raw game in terms of you had to commit a serious investment of time into it, and you could lose all your time invested if you died enough, or if you lost your body, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, this was a game that was essentially MMORPG, so massive multiplayer online role playing game with a whole bunch of different classes of different characters that you can make and races, and very, very heavily customizable. It was one of the first customizable games to this degree, in my opinion. That's why I think people felt so in tune with it and touched by this game. And yeah, if you died, especially when you're level, above level 20, you could lose several days worth of progress.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on which character you started with, you would start in a different zone, excuse me, out of the 500. So if you were a dark elf, you could be, 3 days walk from where I started in the game, because back then there wasn't any fast travel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also what I like about this game. There wasn't any watered down aspects at the time of like, oh, you die, you just reload it. There was no saving, where you could jump back a few hours and get all your progress back. So if you died, it was a serious disaster, especially later in the game. And there was no fast travel back then for a lot of video games. So if you wanted to get from point A to point B, you might have to walk 3 hours in game to get to where you wanted to go. And obviously later on, this game adopted the fast travel system, because I think gamers over the
Mm-hmm.
course of the past 3 decades have gotten a little bit lazy. I hate to say it. But
What we like to say is casual.
yeah, casual. All right, fine. Let's be nice.
Let's be nice and say casual.
Casual gamers.
Lazy, I guess.
But I remember having to walk from Everfrost Peaks, my homeland of my character, and buy spells, and then go to the closest, city of commerce, which was called Westport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was a big city with all kinds of people selling stuff. And it was just a place where you needed to go to get quests and buy and sell gear. And the walk for me, I remember making it probably hundreds of times. It was about an hour and a half. So I had to go through like 7 zones, like Everfrost, to this dungeon. I forgot what the name of it was.
Through the dungeon to the other
Yeah.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. So all kinds of different grass plains and dodging these like hill giants, all just to get to a different.
Oh, the hill giants.
Yeah,
The hill
yeah,
giant
That's
dodging.
were the biggest issue. I remember.
The hill giant dodging.
It was a cyclops that I had to always evade. I forgot what it was called, but go through all these. It was literally a journey every single time. It was a pilgrimage, and I missed aspects of that about video games that now you really can't find anymore, unless you want to do it physically just to prove a point. But any game nowadays will have fast travel.
Yeah, I can see that being something that you miss, because eventually enough people got to a point where it was like, listen, I can't invest for 3 hours to get back
Yeah.
7 hours. Like,
It's definitely not realistic.
no.
But if you're a hardcore gamer, I think it's fun in a way. Depends on how you look at it.
So hardcore gamers are a very small select.
This is definitely, we're talking to probably a niche crowd on this podcast, but I like to give people a glimpse into video games 30 years ago versus games now, to see what the difference is with your original MMOs versus, Elder Scrolls or some of the newer ones, Conan, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating how this industry has changed over the years. But This game, it was supposed to be kind of failed to just launch. You know, it was a game that was like, oh, this is going to fizzle, and we're just doing this for fun for Sony. But it got really, really popular very quickly. The first day, they sold, I think, 10,000 copies, which back then was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And that entire development team was made up of mostly novice programmers. They essentially hired everyone to work in this team that was a novice in the industry because they didn't want to commit any of their experienced veterans to work in this project. But here we are. So all these newbies made this game that everyone laughed at them for even working on. They made it, and then like 10,000 copies later, first day, it was a huge success. It got out of control very quickly. Everyone was buying EverQuest at the time for playing online games.
Which, side note, real quick,
Yeah.
I'm amazed that they didn't, especially at that time, have like server issues. Too many server issues without.
I was going to touch on that.
But I remember the wait times, but like the crashing of servers, like you see nowadays, even it's like they did a pretty good job altogether. I think even back.
Well, they were.
Well,
I don't think you remember the
we're
sort
gonna-
of the way.
Okay, we'll get it.
We're going to touch on this. Yeah. Like I said, they had low expectations for this game when it launched, and you know, the bandwidth was very quickly maxed out for their home office, and it was so congested, the bandwidth, within a matter of days that nearby office buildings that required internet lost internet. They couldn't even log on to their like AOL online or whatever they're using. So a lot of corporate buildings within the vicinity of the EverQuest, you know, Sony building, lost internet because they were sucking up all the bandwidth for EverQuest. And it was so bad they had to install more internet. Let's call them, you know, internet cable to go from LA to San Diego to their home office just to expand the bandwidth for EverQuest. So they did all this stuff, which took weeks. They had to install this hard landline to go from different headquarters. So they had to have 3 employees stand in the freezing server room because it was kept cold, so they would keep the machines cool. To just stand in there, hit the reset button on the servers in case they crashed because they kept crashing all the time. Crashed every hour almost. So they just stood in these freezing rooms with like parkas and just like hit a button for like for weeks.
Where's that commitment now?
Yeah, yeah. But it gives you an idea of how much they were ill prepared for this kind of successful launch, and I thought that was pretty fascinating. So finally, after like 2 months, they fixed all this bandwidth issue, and obviously they still have problems. But the fact they had 3 guys just standing in there pushing a button in the server room to like reset the console.
I wonder how much they got paid. You know,
Probably not enough.
not
It
enough.
was a very boring job.
Yeah, well, I mean, they opened up with 10,000 copies sold in the beginning, and then they ended up having 3,000 plus active users per realm. Like that is
Per zone.
Per zone, yeah, per zone.
Per zone.
Is that what they called it back then?
Yeah.
But
Realm is a new term. Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
like what a successful launch. Even with the crashes and everything, I remember them, but still,
We just dealt with them because
What
we
we
had
did
we
was-
had nothing else
Yeah.
to compare it.
we sat there and watched it till we got in.
Yeah.
And that's what you did. That was part of it. And it was that good that it didn't matter.
Yeah, but the thing is, it was the first of the first. There was nothing to compare it to say, oh, this is bad. This is not what it's supposed to be.
No, yeah, it laid the road.
Yeah.
It definitely did.
This is definitely one of those frontier games that paved the way for a lot of different games that you see nowadays. Obviously, WoW, World of Warcraft, was probably heavily inspired from EverQuest, among other games. But so, is it safe to assume from you, Derek, the deciding factor of this game in terms of why it was good was probably just for how raw and hardcore it was?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that separated it and made it different than any other game I've ever played since then.
Yeah.
And to this day, I don't get that feeling. I remember making it a decision every time. I remember a very specific moment, and I'll highlight this exact point in time. I remember watching you attack mammoths in this frozen realm, and I remember thinking specifically, I want to be there. I want to be in this snowy realm, and I want to attack these mammoths. And I just so you guys know, listening, I was a wizard, a human wizard,
And
What was his name? Character's name?
How do I not remember my character's name?
I feel like it rhymed with anthrax. Was like in the
Xanthrax or something with an X. Yeah.
It was like a medication name or something.
No, it was something stupid.
I don't remember your name either.
I don't remember my character's name. Wow, that's embarrassing.
It's I mean,
But I remember yours. I think it was Xanthrax.
I think it started with an X. I
Yeah.
remember Dylan, yours was it Casmar, right?
Correct.
Casmar.
Yeah.
And
What
what
did-
Spencer's was Syraxis? Was that what it was? Syraxis or
No,
something?
Spencer stole Carrie's name.
Warlord Wargal?
I think your brother named his character Zol Thor,
Yeah,
and I was Zol Fight.
he stole Carrie's name, and then I was like, "Why are you why is this happening?" And it was very confusing for a very long time.
Yeah.
Spencer had basically the same name as Carrie,
Yeah.
and it's because Carrie was playing a lot. Carrie got a lot higher than us.
Yeah, it was someone to look up to. I mean, you were.
Dedicated player.
Back to what you were saying, like what I appreciate most about the game is that the raw part of it. I remember the specific parts where I remember watching you slay mammoths
Mhm.
and collect their tusks for the ivory.
For the ivory to go
The
back.
ivory trade.
The ivory trade of this game. And I was like, wow, that is so like amazing. The commerce in this game.
Yeah, it's
The-
true. I was gonna say.
Yeah, there were so many levels of commerce, which we can get into for like body retrieval, and we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. Like Bard's advantages and stuff. The thing I really always remembered was I wanted to get to a point where I destroyed these mammoths for their tusks, and I could start this ivory trade of the game. And I, to this day, remember walking up to those mammoths thinking, I don't know if I'm going to survive this encounter. And if I don't survive this encounter, I may lose everything. So every decision was, can I do it perfectly? Can I do it correctly? It was so much pressure. You don't get that in any other game, even in the World of Warcraft. Like unless
They
you play
lessen,
hardcore
they
mode.
lessen the pressure when you have a fallback. The
Yeah.
thing is, in this game was, I hesitate to say hardcore because it was just inherently part of the game. And so you had to make those decisions on the fly. And do I have enough mana? Oh, also, by the way, I have to eat. I have to drink. I have to do all this other stuff where they just assume you do in all these new MMOs.
Yeah.
But
Survival mechanics.
survival mechanics. But we might be going too specific into these things.
No, like I mean, this I would like to talk about the personal facets of these games and why they're different from games nowadays. And I think this is a fascinating game. I still think it's my all-time favorite game. And I don't have the most hours in EverQuest out of any game I probably have. I looked it up. It's just kind of sad. I have over 10,000 hours of just gaming, like overall. And I think EverQuest, I looked it up. I had 56 days of game time for that one character, Zolthar. I had a couple others that were like smaller levels, Necromancer and things like that. But so 56 days times 24 hours, and I forgot what the. I know you're kind of an astrophysicist over here, Dylan, but
Don't.
I don't know what this.
Do not put me on the spot, right?
What the hell, dude?
And I know it's like 1344.
Okay.
If I had to say.
Or you just put all the. I saw you.
Okay.
I pulled my calculator out.
But for that many hours, you can probably learn 3 languages, at least 2, I would say. You could probably master several trade skills.
I wouldn't say.
Well, that's
Master-
kind of sad.
56
Not master,
days.
at least have a good understanding of.
Oh, yeah.
And do I regret it? Absolutely not.
Absolutely. Well, that's what matters, right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people look at games as like, oh, this is, it's not even a hobby. This is just a thing that people do when they're bored. But no, for me, it's always been a passion. And I have no regrets of playing thousands of hours of games that were just, fun. There was nothing behind it, just fun. And you could feel the dopamine enter your brain. And I think this was one of the first that really got the juices in my brain flowing among other games. And we'll talk about some other ones later in this podcast, like And I think a lot of these I played with you guys. Raft, these are obviously newer ones. Raft and Satisfactory, Dark Alliance, which was one of those first co-op games that came out a few years later after, you know, Ultima and games like that that probably inspired these games. And we'll talk about Dying Light and some other ones, Hell Let Loose, Age of Empires, and Total War. So a whole slew of different games. But I think EverQuest for me, along with Lands of Lore, these were two games that really got me going with the the gaming industry. And then for you, Dylan, what would you say was the overall defining factor for EverQuest for you? Was it just because you were young, or was it just like or was it because of the hardcoreness of it?
Not at all. No, the hardcoreness was a part of the game. That was like initially an innate part of the game, but I would say the fact that it was the first three-dimensional, somewhat open world environment where you could go from left to right. You made your own decisions. You go left, right, forward. You had your own class, you had your own character. You chose whether or not to be in these environments by yourself, solo, or you could make friends and attack anything with co-op wise.
Yeah.
But the reason why it attracted me was because of not only the litany of options that you had, but it was mostly because you had choices every single step of the way. And it was like, okay, do I want to do this quest? Do I want to do this quest? And there was no book or no path that told you you need to go this direction, which is a little bit different than the MMOs nowadays, where it's like, here's your quest, and here's a mini map, and you need to go this
Waypoint.
direction.
Yeah.
A waypoint, or this is your direction you need to go. Versus this game was, here's the quest. Let me open up the notes of this quest, read it.
I remember the book thing.
The book, and
Yeah,
then figure it out. And you had to figure it out yourself because there were no guides back then. The internet was pretty limited at that point, and if it was, you'd just search pretty hard to find any manual to go in these directions.
Yeah.
So you had to figure it out yourself, or ask a friend, or literally go into the game, communicate with someone, and figure it out where you were going. So it was one of the closest to like an alternate reality situation that we had at that point.
Yeah.
Because you were living in that game, and because it was so hardcore, every decision mattered, and it made it so that like you had to ask people, how do I go from here to here? How do I do this? And people would literally pay money
For information.
for information.
Yeah.
Information was
that's right.
power still. So there was no guide. And I loved that because he was so raw.
Yeah.
And there was many ways that being so raw was helpful. And especially me being a bard in the game, I made a lot of money because of that. But in the game, not in real life. But that's was my favorite part of it. Was basically it was the first version of a game that could be considered an alternate reality,
Yeah.
or like life
Yeah.
that you could spend time in and
You could be
make friends and be who you wanted to be.
Exactly. I want to touch on that, Dylan. I want to expand on it a little bit, like specifically because I remember both the shaman class and the bard class. Some of them had benefits within the game where they could buff party members, and they could make them move faster, quite literally run faster. So these things that Carrier was mentioning earlier, these 3-hour walks, would all of a sudden be cut down to an hour and a half, and because you ran twice as fast, you get buffed for running speed, or you can like get elevated 20 feet in the air to the point where you don't aggro. Or aggro means pull the attention of the environmental creatures and stuff. And there were a lot of benefits to these character builds where they were support classes and it was an alternate way of making in-game currency. It was commerce. It was, hey, I need to go
much more.
I need to get to this zone and I need to get there within an hour and a half. Well, I can help you get there and I'll run you there in an hour and a half, but you got to pay me 25 gold. And it was a way of accruing currency in a different fashion, in a very social fashion, versus I'm going to run this quest and get awarded this amount of gold. Or I'm going to sell this item that I have that I on the either to an NPC, non person controlled character, and the either like accrue money that way, or you go to a market and you auction something off, which was a beautiful part of this game too. I don't even know we're going to touch on the auction house, but there were so many ways to make money, and there were environmentally all these challenges that you had to get around, and you had characters who were able to build a trade, which is, I'm going to stand next to a zone or an area of this zone that has a lot of people who die often. And I'm going to be a bard or a shaman who buffs and debuffs and stand here and wait till people ask me for help to go retrieve their bodies. And you would sit there and make money just buffing them up to go retrieve their body, or go retrieve their bodies for them.
It was one of the first times
It was like
that a secondary economy
yes.
could be created through an MMORPG. And it was, I don't think they planned for it. Maybe they did, but it was inherent in the game. And it was sustained by the players, and it was created by the players, and it was just something that naturally occurred.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that naturally occurred throughout the gameplay. And I do not think that the developers initially planned for how successful something like that would be.
It's amazing seeing how a literal market arises.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Well, there are a lot of rumors. I don't know if they're true or not. I didn't really look, but a lot of these EverQuest characters that were high levels, you could sell the login information online to people on eBay. And supposedly a lot of these characters would sell for tens of thousands of dollars, because if you're a high level at EverQuest originally, you spent thousands of hours to get there. Especially with certain classes, they were more difficult, or they were in high demand for their And thought that was pretty interesting. But I remember for my build specifically, people loved shamans to make potions. And I remember one was called Spirit of Wolf, and that was a potion that made you run fast. So if you need to get from point A to point B in half the amount of time, I could sell you 10 potions of Spirit of Wolf, or we called it S-O-W. Now I'll get 100 platinum or whatever, but I remember it being a whole like black market of potions that I'll just sit in a tent and brew these potions. And yeah, it was just, I remember thinking like, this is crazy. All this exists in the game, that none of this happened until this game. This entire slew of, luxury services for characters and games and all this stuff. It's just absolutely fascinating. So, I think we have enough information on EverQuest at this point. I think we've paid enough homage to it. Maybe we'll have another episode just kind of, talking more about it. But I think we've got to a good point. And I wanted to say also, I remember, this is just randomly because I remember this and it stuck with me for whatever reason.
Okay.
I remember calling you. I think I had just smoked a little bit of cannabis, and I called you. This was like last year, maybe, or 2 years ago. And we're going to talk a different episode in this podcast about Dying Light 2, which I think we've all played together as well. A zombie apocalypse game where it's also online and you can play with people and survive in zombie apocalypse. But I remember calling you because I was so blown away
Okay.
by this instance in the game where you get to a little town, people surviving the zombie apocalypse. So this is a Dying Light 2. Okay. So I get to this point in the game, and you're in this town of a bunch of NPCs, non-person characters that have preset dialogue as they made, so they made the town.
Yeah.
And there was this like 10 to 15-minute scene of there was like a fake theater in this town. That was supposed to be Shakespeare's Hamlet. To like entertain the NPCs of this town, like they have entertainment to pass the time in this terrible existence of a life that they're trying to survive the zombie apocalypse. And I remember watching this play go on of Hamlet in a zombie game, and I was like, "Oh, this is interesting. I'm going to watch this for a minute." And it went on forever. Hamlet in a zombie game, and I remember thinking, "Oh, it's going to end in a minute," and it just kept going. So these, developers probably spent a few dozen hours just creating this little facet of a zombie game to have Hamlet in it. And I think I called you and I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I emailed the developers. I was like, this is pretty incredible. You guys did this. I appreciate it. They responded back. They're like, thanks. Like a little smiley face. But I remember being so blown away by these little nuggets that, developers like to throw in games that I had to email them. But anyways, sorry. Has nothing to do with EverQuest, Lands of Lore. We're off subject, but I wanted to bring that up because you were here with me today.
Well, no, I think that's good that you brought it up because that shows your appreciation. How much work goes into the development of these games in the smallest facets and the smallest details, and they have, let alone Easter eggs and things that people can discover with a certain amount of hours playing a certain game. But just walking through a world and seeing a whole Hamlet presentation because you just decided to sit there and watch it. I mean, it speaks to the developers. It really does.
It's very, very well done and very impressive to add that to, like I said, a zombie apocalypse game where you're blowing off heads of zombies, and you can also see Hamlet on the side. I'm hoping to have you guys on if you're interested for more episodes, because I think I've, out of all people, gamed with you guys the most over the years, and especially with some of the more, my favorite genre is definitely probably the same as your guys's, which is open world, survival, crafting, strategy. Yeah, Rust. We'll talk about Rust for sure. We'll talk about some older ones, but like Command and Conquer, we'll talk about that at some point. Valheim. Talk about Total War, and play with you guys Warhammer. A lot of good ones, and hoping to have you guys back on the show.
Well, thank you, Carrie, for inviting Derek and I to this show. When I think of video games and when I think of someone who I actually spend time with to actually play these games, especially extended games where they're fantasy based or they have lore, like some form of like story behind them, I think of you because I grew up playing games with you and next to you, and especially EverQuest, which was the topic of this podcast. I remember us being so addicted to it, the fact that we would run home after middle school and fight over the one PC that was in the house. And Derek and I would literally get in fist fights sometimes about who.
We were kids, mind you.
Yes, we were 12 years old.
What's your face?
We were 12, 11 years old, and we would run home from school, and our rule traditionally was whoever sat in the chair first would actually get to play the game because there was one game.
We used to lock the front door in front of the other.
Yeah, we would like push each other, lock the doors. So they were because there was only so many. There was only one computer, and there was two of us, and we're identical twins. So it was basically who got to play that day for a couple hours, and then our older brother would come in after he worked or whatever, and then it was his computer, so he got rights. But then whoever didn't get to play would walk over to Carrie Rankin's house, which was next door, and then watch him play his character, which was much more elevated than ours anyway, and have fun watching him play.
Yeah.
So regardless, one of us had a position of enjoying EverQuest the entire time.
I feel like we were
And-
enjoying it though.
Well, we enjoyed it the entire time. And then, not to extend this podcast for too long, but I do remember our older brother taking advantage of our ignorance.
Are you keep
I was
us this
gonna
down
say that.
quick? I was gonna real quick mention that. Yeah. If you guys want to talk about that.
If you're willing.
We would
Please.
talk about it.
This is actually a third level of commerce with EverQuest, but outside of the boundaries of the game,
Yeah.
more sinister.
I don't
Light.
I don't quite remember the details on the quantities of money.
I do.
You do? Do you want to explain it to them?
Yeah, because when the first game initially first came into production, it was $30 a month subscription, and I believe it dropped down to 20 or something, or maybe it was 30 the entire time. I don't remember. I think it dropped down to 20 to be a subsequent subscription for any gamers wanting to continue to play the game. We are very young at this point, and Derek and I, we're twin brothers, and we're 9, 10 years old. We don't have an income. The way we make money is by going around mowing our neighbors' lawns. And that's not a lot of money. Maybe $15, $20 per lawn, and split between 2 kids. Not a lot. And we do our best.
Mind you, 2-3 hours to do this.
And not just mowing, it's weed eating, it's all we do a full job. Otherwise our father would not approve. But we do our full job.
Episode of the podcast is your father.
Really? Yeah, let's do a separate episode of the father. So we would make bare minimum 10, 11-year-olds making the best money we can. And I do remember our older brother, Spencer, which I will name drop. But he basically said the game cost $40 a month or something like that. And he would just outright lied.
Yep.
How much the game cost.
And we didn't know.
The thing is, it was his computer. So he goes, all right, I'll give you guys, if you pay 30 of the 40, you guys can play whenever you want, or unless I'm playing. So we would pay our older brother $30 a month as 11-year-olds, mind you, $30 a month to play on his computer to play this game. And we did this for a solid year or so. And then one of us figured out that we were literally paying the monthly fee for our older brother, who's 6 years older than us, has a job making money and in high school, and he would kick us off whenever he wanted to.
He had all the control.
He had all the control, and he was playing it for literally free because he had 2 younger brothers who were twin brothers who were paying it for him. What a manipulative piece of garbage. What? You know what? He said it, and he agreed.
He hustled you.
He hustled us for years.
And for his 401k.
Little add on to that. I brought it up to him at Christmas a few years ago, and I said, "Hey, you realize you did that to us?" And all he did, his response was a big smile, and then he cheers me and said,
What do you do at that point?
And he goes to the field of politics.
Now it's in politics.
You know what? I was going to add real quick special sound effect that I'm sure you guys will definitely recognize. I forgot to play it earlier, but here's the sound effect. The original level up thing that I can remember that was so loud, such a wonderful sound. Yeah. And yeah, we'll end the podcast with that. Well, thank you guys for being here. We'll hopefully see you again. So
"Oh, you will."
Oh, I'll come back, definitely, 100%.
Let us know when.
Thanks for inviting us.
A lot of fun, Carrie. Thanks for having us.
yeah, thanks guys. See you.